Shalom Aleichem. We're learning Parashat Ekev. We're on page 981 of the ArScroll Chumash. Parashat Ekev is continuation of the conversation Moshe Rabbeinu is having with the Jewish people in the last few weeks of his life. And he reminds the Jewish people that there is reward for keeping mitzvot. That is, it is actually beneficial for a Jew to keep the law of God. In verse 12, it starts with the word V'haya Ekev, and it will be as a result of, and it shall be the reward when you hearken, when you listen to these ordinances, and you observe and perform them. Hashem, your God, will safeguard for you the covenant and the kindness that he swore to your forefathers. Hashem made a deal with Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And the deal was that if their children will be loyal to God, then God will be loyal to them. That he will be their protector, guide. As verse 13 says, he will love you, bless you, and multiply you. He will bless the fruit of your womb, means your children, and the fruit of your land. And examples are given, your grain, your wine, and your oil. The offspring of your cattle and the flocks of your sheep and goats. Your animals will produce a lot of offspring. On the land that he swore to your forefathers to give you, and all that bounty you will receive on the good land that Hashem promised to our forefathers. Not only we will have happiness, but we will also be in our homeland. Verse 14 continues the blessings for keeping the Torah. You will be the most blessed of all the peoples. There will be no infertile male or female among you or among your animals. Hashem will remove from you every illness and all the bad diseases of Egypt that you knew. Hashem will not put them upon you, but will put them upon your enemies. You will destroy all the nations that Hashem, your God, will deliver to you. Your eye should not pity them, and you should not worship their gods, for it is a snare to you. It means that when you are victorious, do not feel bad for the evil people. If you're gentle towards evildoers and you have pity on them and you leave them as is and allow them to continue their evil ways, it will be a snare for you. It will be a trap for you. Eventually you might get used to them, become their friends, and eventually you might actually start copying them. And therefore, our sages say, the one who is merciful towards evil, eventually he will become cruel towards good people. Rather, you have to fight against the evil and be merciful towards righteous. Now we continue verse 17. Perhaps you will say in your heart, these nations are more numerous than I. How will I be able to drive them out? More often than not, almost always, the Jewish people fought against an enemy greater than it. And they could rightfully ask, How will I fight against this mighty enemy? They have more people, more horses and more chariots, more bows and arrows, and in modern day, they have more tanks and airplanes. And of course, they have much more people. How can we fight them? This is a question that could have stopped us from even trying. But Hashem gives us assurance. In verse 18, do not fear them. You shall remember what Hashem your God did to Paro and to all of Egypt, where the Jewish people were slaves, no weapons, no army, surrounded by their masters, the Egyptians, who were beating them and killing them and killing their babies. Without a rebellion, without a shot, the Egyptians were punished and the Jewish people were taken out. The great tests that your eyes saw, and the signs and wonders, and the strong hand and the outstretched arm with which Hashem your God took you out. All the descriptions of the miracles that took place in Egypt. Just remember them. And that will serve as your assurance that Hashem is always with you and you have nothing to fear, because even if you are small in number, God, the most powerful, is on your side. And therefore, no nation on earth can go against the Jews when they do the will of Hashem, because Hashem himself will fight for them. Do not fear. Remember that what Hashem did to Paro. And verse 19 continues. So shall Hashem your God do to all the nations before whom you fear. In our time, we can remember our recent history. Jewish people fighting against numerous armies when they were just a young nation, and when they were surrounded by enemies on all sides, from the ground and from the air and from the sea, and from within the country itself. And they did not give up. They did not lay down in front of their enemies. Rather, they turned to God. They said, Shema Israel, and they went to fight, and all their enemies were destroyed. And instead of wiping our land off the face of the earth, we got more and more land with every war. So shall Hashem your God do to all the peoples before whom you fear. Also, the hornet swarm will Hashem your God send among them, until the survivors and hidden ones perish before you. Which means Hashem will cause that natural reasons or animals and insects and birds will fight on your behalf. It will be miraculous. And our enemies are the first ones to admit we might not see what's going on the enemy territory, but they are witnessing it on their own skin. You shall not be broken before them, for Hashem your God is among you, a great and awesome God. And here I want to give an example of the wars that the Jewish people fought with their army, and thank God they won all of them. But in every war that they fought, there were casualties. However, there was one war that the Jewish people were involved in, but they didn't fight. And in that war, Even though they were passive, there were no casualties. Why? Because someone else was sent by God to fight for them. And this is, of course, the Gulf War in the early 90s, when Saddam Hussein declared war against Israel and was throwing Scud missiles, huge rockets. Each one could destroy a whole high-riser. And he threw hundreds of them, and 39 of them actually hit their target, and buildings were falling all over, but not even one Jew died. Why? Because of what we see over here. When God fights our battles, we have nothing to fear. Not even one Jew will be hurt. The Jewish people didn't have to send their soldiers in. They didn't have to lose any soldiers. Hashem inspired other countries to come, deliver weapons, protect the Jews, and fight for them against Saddam Hussein and overpower Iraq. So when we rely on Hashem, we are the most successful. When we say, Hashem, let me help you, let me do my part, Hashem makes us successful as well, but there are losses. It costs us something. Something to keep in mind, and the more we rely on Hashem, the more successful we're going to be. Because Hashem is perfect and our actions are not. Now, we are in verse 22. This is chapter 7. Here there is a prophecy that the victory of the Jewish people over the nations that live in their land will be slow, but there will be a reason for it, in order to allow for proper settlement. Hashem, your God, will thrust these nations from before you little by little. You will not be able to annihilate them quickly, lest the beasts of the field increase against you. Which means Hashem wants us not only to win, but also to settle the land and keep it habitable. If we destroy or scare our enemies and they run away, the land is going to be desolate. By the time we go and are able to occupy everything, there will be thorns and thistles, the land might turn into desert, and it might have wild animals. Instead, Hashem says, as you progress, the nations will be pushed away. However, the neighbors are going to be very close to you. They're not going to run away because I need them to cultivate the land, take care of the houses, that they shouldn't collapse, and to keep away wild beasts. So sometimes, even when we don't experience a fast rate of success, we have to keep in mind that that is actually better for us. And it's going to be more productive when we go slow. Hashem, your God, will deliver them before you and will confound them with great confusion until their destruction. He will deliver their kings into your hand, like it happened with Saddam Hussein and many others. And you shall cause their name to perish from under the heaven. No man shall stand up against you until you have destroyed them. Again, all this is a promise of God for the Jewish people who keep the Torah. As the Parsha begins, this shall be the reward when you listen to these laws and perform them. We have safety, we'll have peace, Hashem will show his love, shower us with blessings, we're going to have many children, our animals will reproduce, all our businesses will thrive, and we will live in the land of Israel. Now, however, there are some conditions. As we conquer one nation after another, and we destroy them, we have to make sure not to follow their customs. As it says, the carved images of their gods you shall burn in fire. You shall not covet, you shall not desire and take it for yourself, the silver and gold that is on those idols. Anything that was used for idol worship becomes forbidden. And even if it's precious metals, don't desire them, destroy them, lest you be ensnared by it. Because if you keep it, it will remind you of the idol. The idol will always be on your mind, and one day you might turn to it. Verse 26, and you shall not bring an abomination into your home and become banned like it. Abomination here refers to idol worship, anything that is related to idol worship, idols themselves, as well as ornaments that were put on them, and anything that God does not approve of should not enter our homes. Now, chapter 8. Moshe recounts what we went through in the desert, and he shows it to us in a different light. Chapter 8, verse 2. You shall remember the entire road on which Hashem, your God, led you these 40 years in the wilderness, so as to afflict you. You think it's to afflict you, to cause you pain? No, it's in order to test you. The affliction is a test. If we pass it, we are rewarded greatly. If we fail it, then Hashem will continue testing us and strengthening us and testing us and strengthening us until we will be able to pass all tests. So the faster we pass our tests, the faster we will see the blessing. The more a person says, let me go slow, the more he will be subjected to tests. As it says that a person is created with a certain amount of predetermined suffering he has to go through, a certain amount of effort he has to put in. And if he is slow and he says, you know what, I don't want to work hard, I'm not going to put in effort, he'll have to work longer. If he says, I want to have easy, comfortable life, I don't want to pass tests, then Hashem will send him suffering from elsewhere. It's not going to be suffering of doing the right thing, but rather it may be suffering of popped tires, of a ticket, of IRS audit, of diseases, and so on and so forth. Instead of saying, God, you want me to do something, and it's not comfortable, I have to keep Shabbat, I have to eat kosher, I have to wear kippah, I have to wake up early to go to minyan, and I have to go to sleep late because I can't just plop into the bed. I have to first say Shema before I go to bed. I can't just eat, I have to wash my hands, and I have to make a blessing, I have to make sure it's kosher. There is effort involved, but that effort is already predestined. And if a person chooses not to go through that effort, Hashem sends him empty effort, toothache and other kinds of headaches without earning a reward. So again, Hashem led you these 40 years and afflicted you in order to test you, to know what is in your heart, whether you would observe his commandment or not. Yes, he afflicted you and he let you hunger. However, it was for your benefit. Because of lack of food, he fed you man. And man was something that you didn't know, nor did your forefathers know. Why? It was the greatest lesson, in order to make you know that not by bread alone does man live. You don't need bread that comes from 10 kinds of labor that a person has to put in order to have a piece of bread. Not by bread alone does man live. Not only by the work of your own hands, by the sweat of your own brow. Rather, by everything that emanates from the mouth of Hashem does man live. You can rely on God, and God will make a statement, and your parnasa and your food will come as if by miracle. And Moshe reminds the Jewish people about their life in the desert. Your garment did not wear out upon you. Yes, because there were no malls to go to. The more often you go to malls, the more you order online, the faster you will notice your clothes are being worn out, they're getting small in size, and you have to replace them. Those that don't go to stores too much, their clothes seems to last longer. And because the Jewish people were in the desert, Hashem said for the next 40 years, you don't have to change your shoes, you don't have to change your pants, you don't have to change your shirts and dresses. The same dress lasted for 40 years. Not only that, if it was a child who was wearing his child clothes, as he grew, the clothing grew with him, because there was no place to buy new clothing, no marketplaces. And your feet did not swell, even though you were walking on hard, dry earth, your feet did not get damaged. These 40 years. And you should know in your heart that just as a father will chastise his son, so Hashem your God chastises you. Parents, out of all people, are the most critical people in a human being's life. Why? Because parents love the child the most, and they see greatness, potential in the child, and they therefore are pushing the child. You didn't do this perfectly. Do this. Why don't you do this? Why didn't you get better grade? Of course, that's not a recommended attitude to have, but we can understand why parents do it for our own sake. And that is why Hashem chastises us. That is why Hashem rebukes us, because he expects a lot from us, because he knows that we are capable of a lot. And like a loving parent, Hashem will take us out of our comfort zone and push us towards new experiences. And he will encourage us to be more enthusiastic and move faster and put in more effort. But as a loving father, you shall observe the commandments of Hashem your God to go in his ways and fear him. For Hashem your God is bringing you to a good land. Why should we serve Hashem? Because we're going to get the reward. We're going to go to the land of Israel. And we might say, who needs it? God forbid. We're comfortable here in America. We have subway system, and we have baseball stadiums, and we have airports and the highways. It's very convenient. Who needs to go to the land of Israel? And Moshe explains to us that the land of Israel is better than any other land. It is a land with streams of water, of springs and underground water coming forth in the valley and in the mountain. A land of wheat, barley, grape, fig, and pomegranate, a land of olive oil and date honey, a land where you will eat bread without poverty. You will lack nothing there. A land whose stones are full of iron, and from whose mountains you will mine copper. And we might say this is only partially true. Yes, the land is blooming. The desert is turning into a garden. We don't have so much water in the land of Israel, and we don't have so many natural resources. But that is only because the Jewish people are not 100% doing God's will. There is a large percent of the Jewish nation that are following God's will to the last letter. And therefore, we have food to eat, we have prosperity, we have technology, our land is beautiful, tourists love it, but it's not perfect. And Hashem is waiting until the rest of the Jewish nation joins the ranks and also serves Hashem. And then all the blessings are going to come upon us. You will eat and you will be satisfied fully and bless Hashem your God for the good land that he gave you. This is a mitzvah to say Birkat Hamazon after eating a good meal to your full satisfaction. If you eat bread meal and you're satisfied, it is a Torah requirement to bless Hashem for food and for land. Now, verse 11, Moshe is warning us against the danger of prosperity. When people become rich and wealthy, they might fall into a trap. What is it? Take care lest you forget Hashem your God by not observing his commandments, his ordinances and his decrees, which I command you today. Why? Why would we forget Hashem? And verse 12 explains, lest you eat and be satisfied, and you build good houses and settle, and your cattle and sheep and goats increase, and you increase silver and gold for yourselves, and everything that you have will increase. So what's so bad about it? You will eat and be satisfied. You will have nice big houses. You'll settle. You'll have a lot of cattle and sheep and goats. Your silver and gold will increase, and everything you have will increase. We are living in this time. So what do we have to be worried about? Verse 14, and your heart will become haughty, and you will forget Hashem, your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slavery, who leads you through the great and awesome wilderness of snake, serpent, scorpion, and thirst, where there was no water, who brings forth water for you from the rock, who feeds you man in the wilderness, in order to test you, to do good for you in the end. This is the nature of all tests. At the end, we are rewarded with good for passing them. But Hashem says that when the Jewish people have everything, they stop relying on Hashem and they start thinking that they can be self-sufficient. They forget about God, they stop observing his mitzvot. And you may say in your heart, my strength and the might of my hand made me all this wealth. Then you shall remember Hashem, your God, that it was he who gave you strength to make wealth in order to establish his covenant that he swore to your forefathers as this day. Jewish people should always remember where their blessing and strength comes from, because only then it will continue. But if we take credit for ourselves, then Hashem will say, you think you did it? Do you want to try doing it yourself? Here, I will let you. I'm going to leave you alone for a little bit and let's see how you manage. And then things start falling apart. And we get a phone call from a bank that our account is closed and that someone hacked in. And chas v'shalom, there is a robbery and a fall and injury and a ticket and so many problems, chas v'shalom, can happen if there is no protection from God. It's only when you remember that it was he who gave you strength to make wealth, then you will continue to have peace and prosperity. Now, chapter 9. Hear, O Israel, today you cross the Jordan. Soon the Jewish people are going to go into the land of Israel across the Jordan River, to come and drive out the nations that are greater and mightier than you, cities that are great and fortified. But you know today that Hashem your God, He crosses before you. Don't think you're going to fight by yourself. He is a consuming fire. He will destroy them and He will subjugate them before you. Do not say in your heart. Now, Jewish people might make a mistake and say, why is it that we got the land of Israel from the Arabs or from the British and from all the other nations that were there? Do not say in your heart, when Hashem pushes them away from before you, saying, because of my righteousness did Hashem bring me to possess this land, and because of the wickedness of these nations did Hashem drive them away from before you. Yes, those nations were wicked. And yes, Jewish people compared to any other nation are righteous. But don't say that that was the reason. The reason we got the land of Israel again, it's not because we deserved it, because of our good behavior, and not only because the people who lived there were so wicked. They live everywhere, and they still survive. Not because of your righteousness, you're coming to possess the land, but because of the wickedness of these nations, does Hashem your God drive them away from before you? Yes, they lose their right to be on this land because of their wickedness. However, there is another factor. And in order to establish the word that Hashem swore to your forefathers, to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the reason why Hashem chose this land for the Jewish people and not any other land was because He promised Abraham that He will give him and his descendants this land. He promised similarly to Yitzchak, and He promised the same to Yaakov. And now He's bound by that promise. And you should know that not because of your righteousness does Hashem your God give you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff-necked people. From beginning of our nationhood until now, we are a stiff-necked people. It is a character trait that we can use for good, to refuse to follow all the other nations and their wicked ways. But unfortunately, some Jewish people use it for their own detriment by being stubborn and denying God. Now, we continue. On page 987, verse 7. Moshe reminds the Jewish people of all the times that they rebelled against God. Remember, do not forget that you provoked Hashem your God in the wilderness. You have been rebels against Hashem from the day you left the land of Egypt until your arrival at this place. And remember Chorev, Mount Sinai. You provoked Hashem when you made the golden calf, and Hashem became angry with you to destroy you. And I had to ascend the mountain and stay there for 40 days and 40 nights. Bread I did not eat, and water I did not drink. For 40 days, Moshe became like an angel. And Hashem gave me 2 stone tablets. It was at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that Hashem gave me 2 stone tablets. And Hashem said to me, descend quickly from here, for your people that you took out of Egypt has become corrupt. They have strayed quickly from the way that I commanded them, and they have made themselves a molten image. Hashem continued and said, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Let go of me, and I shall destroy them and erase their name from under the heavens, and I shall make you a mightier, more numerous nation than them. And Moshe understood that if Hashem is saying, let go of me and I will destroy them, that means that Moshe still has a chance to save the Jews. So I turned and descended from the mountain, and the mountain was burning in fire, like a volcano. And the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my hands. And when I saw, and behold, you have sinned to Hashem, you made yourself a molten calf. I grasped the 2 tablets and threw them from my 2 hands, and I smashed them before your eyes. Then I prayed before Hashem for another 40 days and 40 nights. Bread I did not eat, and water I did not drink. For I was terrified of the wrath and blazing anger with which Hashem had been provoked against you to destroy you. Verse 20, Hashem became very angry with Aharon to destroy him as well. And I prayed also for Aharon at that time. This means that since Aharon participated in the building of the golden calf, Hashem decided to punish him. But Moshe prayed for him, and Moshe had a discussion with Aharon, and Aharon explained to him that his intent was good. He was trying to stall for time and prevent even greater sins. But nevertheless, he was held accountable. And Moshe's prayer helped, and instead of destroying all children of Aharon, Hashem only destroyed 2 of them, Nadav and Avihu. But Elazar and Itamar remained alive. I took the calf and burnt it in fire. And I pounded it, grinding it well, until it was fine as dust. And I threw its dust into the brook that descended from the mountain. And Moshe took that water mixed with the powder from the golden calf and let the Jewish people drink, and whoever sinned died. And in verse 22, Moshe continues reminding the Jewish people of other rebellions, and in Tave'era, when they complained, and in Massa, when they didn't have water and they complained again, and in Kivrot HaTava, when they desired meat and they complained that they don't have sufficient food, and in Kadesh Barnea, when they sent the spies and they brought evil report. Verse 24, you did not believe him and you did not listen to his voice. You have been rebels against Hashem from the day that I knew you. I threw myself down before Hashem for 40 days, the same second set of 40 days. I prayed to Hashem and said, my Lord, Hashem Elohim, do not destroy your people and your heritage that you redeemed in your greatness, and you took out of Egypt with a strong hand. Remember, for the sake of your servants, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And don't pay attention to the stubbornness of these people. And Hashem forgave the Jewish people and gave us Torah a second time. And now Moshe is describing the second set of the tablets. At that time Hashem said to me, carve for yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and ascend to me to the mountain, and make a wooden ark for yourself, so that when you bring the tablets you will have where to keep them. So I made an ark of cedar wood, and I carved out 2 stone tablets like the first ones. Then I ascended the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. The first set of the tablets were made by God himself, but the second set was made by Moshe. he inscribed on the tablets, according to the first script, the 10 statements that Hashem spoke to you on the mountain, from the midst of the fire, on the day of the congregation. And Hashem gave them to me. I turned and descended from the mountain, and I placed the tablets in the ark that I had made. Now, the death of Aharon is described. The children of Israel journeyed from Beirot Bnei Yaakan to Mosera. There Aharon died, and he was buried there. And Elazar, his son, ministered in his place. Now, the commentators explained that really Aharon didn't die there, but what happened was when Aharon died, the Jewish people got scared because the clouds of glory left, and some of them started running back. And the tribe of Levi pursued them, and they fought them to bring them back, and many people died. And then they came back, and they mourned for Aharon and for the loss of people. From there you travel to Gudgod, and from Gudgod to Yatvata, and Yatva is a land of brooks of water. Now, after the golden calf, Hashem set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark. The Jewish firstborn lost the privilege to serve Hashem in the Beit HaMikdash. Now this privilege was given to the tribe of Levi. And the Kohanim were selected out of the Levites to stand before Hashem to minister to him and to bless in his name. Now Moshe describes the third set of 40 days on the mountain, when he actually received the second set of the tablets. I remained on the mountain as for the first days, 40 days and 40 nights. And Hashem listened to me this time as well, and Hashem did not wish to destroy you. Verse 12 tells us the famous words, and now Israel, what does Hashem your God ask of you? Only to fear Hashem, your God, and go in all his ways and to love him, and to serve Hashem your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the commandments of Hashem and his decrees for your benefit. Why should we keep laws of Hashem? Because verse 14 explains, behold, to Hashem your God are the heavens and the highest heaven, the earth and everything is in it. Both the entire physical universe and the entire spiritual world belong to Hashem. So of course we have to keep his laws, because it's the smartest thing to do what your creator tells you to do. The one that possesses the key to your life. Verse 15, even though Hashem is the master of the entire universe, only your forefathers did Hashem cherish to love them, and he chose their offspring after them, you, from among all the nations as this day. And therefore, cut away the barrier of your heart and no longer stiffen your neck. Stop being stubborn and look at Hashem, listen to him, follow him. For Hashem your God, he is the God of all the powers and the Lord of the lords, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God, who does not show favor and does not accept a bribe. If someone again goes against him, there is no way to come out of it. Hashem is not a human. He knows everything, he sees everything, and he can do anything. He is more powerful than the greatest dictator. And you cannot bribe him. At the same time, verse 18 explains that Hashem is the most humble and caring God. He carries out the judgment of orphan and widow. He loves the proselyte. He loves the converts to give him bread and garment. And you should also love converts because you were once strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall fear Hashem your God, and you shall serve him, and to him shall you attach yourself, and in his name shall you swear. He is your praise, and he is your God, who did for you these great and awesome things that your eyes saw. And one of the miracles was that with 70 souls did your ancestors descend to Egypt, and now Hashem your God has made you like stars of heaven for abundance. And verse 1 of chapter 11, we have first-hand knowledge of God and of the revelation at Sinai. You shall love Hashem your God, and you shall safeguard his charge and his commandments all the days. You should know today that it is not your children who did not know or who did not see the chastisement of Hashem your God, his greatness and his strong hand, all the miracles, the signs and the deeds that he performed in the midst of Egypt, and what he did to the army of Egypt, over whom he swept the waters of the sea of reeds, and what he did to you in the wilderness, and what he did to Datan and Aviram when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them. It's not your children, it's not hearsay. Rather, it is your own eyes that see all the great works of Hashem which he did. Now that Moshe is speaking to the Jewish people, they are all those that were children until 20 years of age that left Egypt. Now they are in their 40s, in their 50s, and in their 60s, but they still remember the whole thing, how Moshe came to Egypt and how Moshe performed all the miracles and he took them out, and they remember the last 40 years in Egypt. They themselves witnessed it. So Moshe is telling them, I'm not telling you stories. You yourselves witnessed it. Rather, it is your own eyes that see all the great work of Hashem. You shall observe the entire commandment so that you will be strong and you will come and possess the land to which you're crossing. And if you do that, Hashem will prolong your days on the land that Hashem swore to your forefathers to give them and to their offspring, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now Moshe again lists the great virtues of the land of Israel. The land to which you come to possess it, it's not even like the land of Egypt, which at that time was the most fertile land. Because in the land of Egypt, you would plant your seed and you would have to water it on foot. You would have to carry the buckets. Here, the land of Israel is much better. You don't have to work so hard. It is a land of hills and valleys. From the rain of heaven will it drink water. If Jewish people follow the word of Hashem, they don't need to work the land so much. Hashem will provide the water and the sunshine and all the nutrients at the right time. Then it is a land that Hashem your God seeks out. The eyes of Hashem your God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year to the year's end. Every time, as soon as the need arises, Hashem already sends the blessing. It will be that if you listen to my commandments, then I shall provide rain for your land in its proper time. And you may, this, by the way, is the second paragraph of Shema, V'haya im Shamor. If you listen to my commandments, I shall provide rain for you in its proper time, and you may gather in your grain, your wine, and your oil. I shall provide grass in your field for your cattle, and you will eat and you will be satisfied. However, beware for yourselves, lest your heart be seduced and you will turn astray and serve gods of others, and prostrate, bow down to them. Then the wrath of Hashem will blaze against you, and he will stop the heavens so that there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its produce. And you will be swiftly banished from the goodly land that Hashem gives you. You shall place these words of mine upon your heart and upon your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign upon your arm, the hand tefillin, and let them be an ornament between your eyes, the head tefillin. You shall teach them to your children, to discuss them. This is a mitzvah to teach Torah to our children, while you sit in your home and while you walk on your way. Wherever you may be, you have to review and learn the words of Torah. When you go to sleep and when you arise, that is the mitzvah of saying Shema twice a day, when we wake up in the morning and before we go to sleep. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. That is the mitzvah of mezuzah. This paragraph, as well as the paragraph of Shema Israel, is written in the mezuzah. And if you do all these things, teach Torah to your children, learn Torah constantly, put on tefillin, attach mezuzah to all your doorways, then Hashem will prolong your days and the days of your children upon the land that Hashem has sworn to your forefathers to give them, like the days of the heaven over the earth. As long as the earth is in existence, the Jewish people will have possession of the land of Israel. Verse 22. Again, at the conclusion of the Parsha, Moshe reminds the Jewish people of the great reward for observing mitzvot. 4. If you will observe this entire commandment that I command you to perform it, to love Hashem your God, to walk in all his ways and to cleave to him, Hashem will drive out all these nations from before you, and you will drive out greater and mightier nations than yourselves. Every place where the sole of your foot will tread shall be yours. Wherever you step will become Jewish land. From the wilderness and the Lebanon, from the river, the Euphrates River, until the western sea shall be your boundary. From the Euphrates River until the Mediterranean Sea will eventually be the land of Israel. No man shall stand up against you, because Hashem your God will set your terror and fear on the entire face of the earth where you will tread, as he spoke to you. This concludes Parashat Ekev. We read time and again of all the great rewards that we will receive for observing the Torah. Thank you for joining. Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach.